Alright kiddos, today we are going to be looking at Algebra 1 functions. It's SOL 8.7.C, and it's all about the zeros of a function. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is what is a zero, okay? A zero is an x-intercept, okay? I want you guys to write exactly what I write down up here. An x-intercept is where it crosses, where a line or parabola crosses the x-axis. Okay, and the x-axis is, of course, the horizontal, means it lays flat like this. See, that's your x-axis. Now, they're also called, also called roots, solutions. Okay, those are also terms. So if it says what is a zero, or if it says what is an x-intercept, or what is a root, or what is a solution, it's asking for the same thing. So in this case, this graph crosses the x-axis at 8 and 0. So your zeros are 8 and 0. Okay. Sometimes they like it in coordinate form, so 8, 0, and 0, 0. Okay. Again, where it crosses the x-axis. In this case, it crosses between 1 and 2, and this would probably be like an x squared, because the little 2 indicates it most likely has 2 zeros. Here's a straight line, so it would be like y equals, 3/2 x plus 3 or something. It would just be an x. It wouldn't have a little 2 indicating there's only 1 0. And I'd say that's about a half, so a 1/2 0. So my 0 in this case is 1/2. All right. So when you have a visual, all you have to do is you have to look where the line crosses the x-axis. This negative slope, remember it's going downhill, crosses at 4, 0. So your 0 is 4. Okay. This positive slope going upwards crosses at the origin. Remember, these would also be, because it's going upward, it crosses at 0, a direct variation. Direct variation has to cross through the origin and go straight on up. So 0, 0, so let's just say x-intercept this time. Let's change our vocabulary. Remember, you could also say 0 or root or solution is 0, okay? In this case, you have a parabola. It crosses at -2, 0, and 2, 0. And so your zeros in this case are -2 and 2. And in this situation, your parabola crosses at -3, 0, and 1, 0. So -3 and 1 are your zeros there. And if you don't have a graph like this, you can put it in your calculator. So for example, this line here is -x squared minus 2x plus 3. If you've been working with your scatter plot, so you would know that because this would be turned on and shaded. Sometimes you'll have to, see how it says it on? You can go up to the top and just click it off to make sure it's not shaded, or the stat plot, turn it on, or make sure it's turned off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and enter -x squared. Don't use minus, use a negative sign. See, there's a negative sign, there's a minus. So -x squared minus 2x, and then plus 3. I'm going to graph that, and I can see that it crosses at 1, 2, -3, and then 1. I could also, if I'm not very good at counting that, hit my little second key there. I graph, that initiates the table, and look at where, when y is equal to 0, what is x? And right there, it's 1. Keep scrolling until I find it, and then -3. So again, looking on the back here, it's probably going to have 1, 0. Y equals, clear that out, 12x plus 7. Graph that. And it looks like it's going through between two numbers, okay? In that situation, graphing is not going to help me much. I can, on an SOL, I would probably say, all right, I'm going to look for an answer choice between 0 and -1. So the way that you solve for zeros if you're not graphing is set y equal to 0 and then solve. Okay, so set y equal to 0 and then solve for x. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. 12x plus 7 equals 0. So remember, subtract 7 from both sides. I get 12x equals -7. I'm going to divide by 12. And x is equal to -7 over 12. Okay? Which is somewhere between 0 and -1, as indicated on our graph. Now, the second one looks like it'll probably work in our graphing calculator. So I'm going to do 1 divided by 2, x plus 4, and that equals y. I'm going to go ahead and graph. And yeah, right there, okay? I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Kind of -7, -8. I think it's -8, but again, to double check, look where y equals 0. Okay, we have to scroll a little here. Oh, right there. So it's -8. So again, -8, 0. So -8 is your 0. But if you wanted to solve it algebraically, 1/2 x plus 4 equals 0. I'm going to subtract the 4 from both sides. 1/2 x equals -4. When you're dealing with a fraction, turn it to a decimal or multiply by the reciprocal, 2 over 1. So x is equal to -8. Okay? And again, for number 3, I can put it in my calculator. Negative, not minus, negative 9x minus 6. Let's graph that. Okay, looks like -1, maybe. Or is it between? It looks like it might be between. Let's check our graph out. Okay. Somewhere between 0 and -1, because see how it jumps from -6 to 3? Somewhere in between there, there's a 0. So maybe like a half or a third. If you're at, sometimes you can look at your answer choices and tell, like, oh, that's the only one between 0 and -1. But in this case, I don't have that clarity, so -9x minus 6 equals 0. It's probably going to be 2/3, -2/3. So add 6. -9x equals 6. Divide by -9, so I get -6 over 9, which simplifies to -2/3. Okay. Now, in this particular case, you can again go to your graphing calculator. Y equals, I'm going to clear that one out. X squared minus 9x plus 20. It says equals 0, but remember, that's y. You can count that as y. And it looks like 4 and 5. Okay? But again, we can double check with our table. Yeah, 4 and 5 right there. 4, 0, 5, 0. Okay. I wrote it as coordinates, but you could also write 4 and 5. Okay. Now, how do I do this if I don't have a clear graph or whatnot? Find my factors and set my factors equal to 0. So what adds to -9? What multiplies to 20? Well, -4 times -5 is 20, but added together gives me -9. So x minus 4 and x minus 5. Now, I set each factor equal to 0, and then solve. So x equals 4. And add 5, so x would equal 5. Okay. Some people caught on that it's kind of, if there's nothing in front of your x and it's pretty clear, then you don't have to solve it out. It's just the opposite. That's a -4, it's going to be positive. That's a -5, it's going to be positive. All right. Number 5, same way. Again, what multiplies to -15 but adds to 2? Well, my factors would be x plus 5 times x minus 3. I'd set each one of those equal to 0. And so my zeros in this case are negative 5 and, oh my gosh, there's a b, and negative and positive 3. Oh, hold on, gotta pause this, gotta run. Back in the flesh, again, you could graph that. X squared, x squared plus 2x minus 15, graph it out, and you would get the same situation. Trickier problems, okay? Remember, you want to be able to solve this out. I don't want that 3 there. There's no greatest common factor, meaning 3, negative 11, and negative 4 don't have anything in common, a number that can divide each one of those out. So I do the 3 times negative 4, the slip and slide. So I get x squared minus 11x minus 12. Now, factor that out. What multiplies to negative 12 but adds to negative 11? X minus 12 times x plus 1. But I also have to divide that by 3, because that's the slip and slide trick. And this simplifies. X minus 4, and then again, got to move that 3 up. 3x plus 1. And here, I have to set each of those factors equal to 0 and solve. So x equals 4, that's one of your zeros. And then I've got to set 3x plus 1 equal to 0. So 3x equals negative 1, and x equals negative 1/3. Okay? Now, if I graph this into my graphing calculator, it's not going to give me what I want, which is negative 1/3. But, again, if I look at my answer choices, and I see that only one answer choice has between 0 and negative 1 and a 4, then that's probably it, okay? This one will graph rather cleanly. 5 B's, everything's attacking me. Let's go to 3 first, okay? Because you can put that in your graphing calculator, and I'm running out of time. Okay. X squared plus 4, x plus 4, okay? In this situation, what multiplies to 4 but adds to 4? So it's 2 and 2, right? X plus 2 times x plus 2. So x plus 2 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. So x is negative 2 in this situation, and in this situation. And because of that, despite it having the little 2, it only has one 0, and that's negative 2. So there are cases that that little trick I was telling you doesn't always work. Okay, and if you put that in your graphing calculator, you would probably get a nice, clear answer. See, yeah, right at negative 2, and you could enter your table, and it would be rather clear that the only answer is negative 2. Okay. Now, this one tripped some people up on the practice SOL. So this isn't simplified. So you have to simplify. X times x is x squared. X times negative 17 is minus 17x. And then plus 70. Okay? So sometimes you have to simplify. And again, I could factor that out, or I could just, due to time, we're just going to look at a graphing calculator. X squared minus 17x plus 70. Okay? I'm going to graph it. It's probably going to be over here. Yep. Okay, I could count them out. It's probably negative 7 and 10. But second table, I'm going to hunt them down. I mean 7 and 10, not negative, yeah. So 7 and then 10, okay? So 7, 0 and 10, 0. So 7 and 10 in this situation. Okay, let's look at that top one. 2x squared, so 2x squared minus 8x minus 24. I'm going to graph it. Okay, and then enter my zeros as negative 2 and 6. All right, you've got some IXL, kids. Live it up.